Thank you for being in class this afternoon to learn about the fire triangle. Today we're going to be discussing what makes up the fire triangle and also how that's going to relate to heat transfer and how both of those are going to relate to firefighting as part of your job. So to start off, 3 elements must be present in order to combine to create combustion. That has to happen in order for a fire to occur and continue. So we're going to go ahead and start off by creating our fire triangle. Now, in order to create a fire triangle or any kind of combustion, 3 elements have to be present. The 3 elements include heat, fuel, and air. Now, in air, what is needed from air is the actual oxygen. But as far as it goes, fuel source, when related to wildland firefighting, is going to be any kind of grass, shrubs, trees, low-hanging branches, ladder fuels, dead timber, anything that can sustain a fire as a fuel. So typically when we're looking at wildland fires, that's what we're looking at, is anything in nature that's any kind of vegetation. Occasionally you will have other things that will relate to a wildland fire, such as when you look at urban mitigation, then you have to start factoring in houses, cars, propane tanks, those are just some of the other things that can come up that can contribute to being a fuel in a wildland fire type situation, and those are definitely some things to watch out for. Heat can be supplied through a variety of different methods. Some of those methods can include matches, cigarettes. Even though I know now most cigarettes, and I say most, they've put in an added feature that puts them out, but it's still very typical to get a grass fire on the side of an interstate due to the fact that someone threw a cigarette out the window. Another natural occurring type of heat would be lightning, and that does start a lot of wildland fires. Whenever you get a tree that's dry, either due to the climate or it could be dead due to the fact that there could have been pine beetles that came through and killed it. When you get lightning, that heat source striking the tree, then that's going to go ahead and supply the heat needed to start a fire. And of course, like I said, with the air, what's needed out of air is oxygen. And that's what fuels the fire. So that's your fire triangle. That is what is combined to create fire. And if you remove any one of the walls of the fire triangle, then fire will no longer be sustainable. Okay. Now you may ask yourself how the fire triangle relates to heat transfer. Well, that's going to be the movement from one object to another. So for instance, one blade of grass to the next, one tree to the next, one housing structure to the next. And without fire being able to move, eventually this fuel source will be depleted. So There's three ways that fire can spread, and that is through radiation, convection, and conduction. Radiation. I'm just going to move over here so I can draw a little bit of a picture for you. The best way that I like to use is a candle, just to give you a visual. But radiation is transferred through waves, much as if you were at a campfire and you can feel the heat coming off of it, or if you're out in the sun you can feel the heat beating down on you. That's radiation heat. So you can feel that when you put your hand up to a candle on the side of it. You can feel the heat coming off of that. When you look at convection, that is the movement of warmer air rising. So you can put your hand above a candle, above that flame, and you'll feel the immediate heat coming off the candle, and that's going to be convection. Conduction, an example that I like to use, is when you are making a pot of coffee and you pour that into your mug and you add your little bit of sugar and cream, and then you need to stir it because you like your coffee blonde. So when you do that, you put your spoon in there. The heat that's being transferred from the hot coffee to the spoon and warming the spoon is going from different particles. It's the heat transfer from one particle to the next. So that's why that spoon begins to heat up, is because it's experiencing conduction from the coffee to the spoon. Now, the reason that radiation, convection, and conduction are so important when related to wildland firefighting is because radiation from the fire is going to go ahead and start to dry the timbers around it. An example of that would be if a tree is on fire, it's going to start sending those radiation waves off of the tree, and that's going to go ahead and start drying the timber around it, heating it up and drying it, and getting it to the point that it's primed to ignite. Convection is one thing that you have to watch with, especially with the topography in the area. So if you have a fire that starts low, down on a hill, down at the base, and there's a hill right next to it, you're going to experience not only the radiation heat that moves outwards, but you're going to experience the convection heat moving up. So that, going up the hill, is going to cause that fire to rapidly spread and run straight up the side of that hill. I mean, obviously there will be other factors, including weather, humidity, but as far as the way that the heat is being transferred, those are two things to watch out for. And then ultimately, conduction. You know, if that fire really starts to run and it flashes through the forest, that immediate fire is already, from the radiation and convection, has primed those trees, and as soon as the flame hits it, it's going to spontaneously combust. So these are things that are the basic principles of wildland firefighting, and things that you definitely have to watch out for, know, and understand in order to fully perform your job. You know, not only to perform your job, but to keep you safe and to keep your team members safe when you're out there. So, as it comes to an end, the main key topics to remember is that fire can only be sustained through heat, fuel, and air, or i.e. oxygen. And fuel can be any kind of wood, timber, houses, cars, propane tanks, different things that can ignite. Heat can be obtained through matches, cigarettes, and lightning, any other kind of fuel sources. And then in order to sustain that, you have to have air, which is everywhere. And then heat is transferred through radiation, convection, and conduction. And those are the things that you need to know and understand in order to be safe while wildland firefighting. So, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you coming to class to learn and understand this, and I hope that these skills will help further your education and your drive into the fire service field.